Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna here. Basically, we are discussing one of the topic that is city creation. In city creation, basically, we are discussing topic that is related to India accounts, and this basically has converted into big level of video. Basically, big level means more than 100 video already basically uploaded for this. So, if you like this channel, then basically please subscribe it, and if you like this video, then you can give a like button, press the like button also. So this is basically Sunil Ramakrishna. Here we are discussing about now SBI account, Amazon, and the last is after 2 days basically the earthquake is going to happen. One of the person told that in this basically we are talking about the lava groups, and the lava groups are basically the future creation group basically. Here we are going to discuss everything basically. Just see basically how it's going to connect and how it's going to map. You will say that basically yes basically we should subscribe this channel basically. So 1 lakh basically is the count of the Mumbai project. Mumbai is doing basically 1 lakh project in the companies. They have got this project from the business development officer, who are actually that 35 people basically, which I had taken the example. 35 people basically, from the 35 people basically, they are getting the business. So Mumbai is getting the business of 1 lakh project by these 35 people. They are the business development group basically. Company basically gets the project in bulk, that this is the number, for example 1,000 project they got. Just see how the basically things are working basically. They've got the 1,000 projects. 1,000 project basically they started. Few companies basically do, and most of basically all companies do this way only. They basically got bulk 1,000 project, right? Now basically, because how it's very critical that basically we are discussing here. So they told that, and why basically the companies basically are earning 100 crores. That is the main thing basically, but expenses also you see basically. Now basically they got the project of 100,000 projects in bulk from that business development officer. Now basically what the company owner is going to do, because he can't give the control to any of the employees basically. He basically don't want to give the control to any of the employees. That is basically his concern. So what he has done basically, he created the agile methodology. Agile methodology means, in agile methodology he used Scrum framework. He created product owner. Product owner means he actually created uh, owners. Owners means product owner basically. You can say. For example, 1,000 projects are there, so 1,000 product owner basically he created. That you are the and that 1,000 people basically are his special employees, who are basically into only into the business development, who are basically only into the business development, and they are basically connected with the clients. That business development group basically are connected with the client. Even basically most of time basically the company owner is only connected with the clients. That basically very rare. Who are basically very extraordinary company owner basically, they only basically can do this. But that very rare company basically, 1 or 2% basically. So here business development officer basically converted themselves into product owner. Now basically what are the things going to happen? Product owner basically they already created that they are the he is the product owner. So here basically we are just merging the technology, sorry, the methodology, that is agile methodology. In that basically Scrum framework is there. That Scrum framework basically we are trying to implement in this way basically, and this is basically to this way also basically company basically runs. In really basically product owner basically are there, product manager is there, and the developers basically are there. Manager basically are connected with the developers. Product owner basically are responsible for all the requirements. So if anything basically requirement is wrongly collected, then product owner will be responsible. So here basically product owner is client basically. So company in front of the company basically. So here two product owner will be there. Here, two product owner will be there. One product owner, he's himself basically converted as a business development officer, come product owner. So he's actually converted into client basically. So he's going to, so he will be represented as a client in front of the company. So company says that basically he's a client. He comes as a client only basically in the company, and company basically give the welcome kit basically that you are sorry welcome wish basically that you are basically the client, like this basically. Only company owner and few people basically know that he is actually the employee of the company basically. That is basically the business development group basically. So software company basically, whatever software companies basically are there, they basically, their business development group basically never comes in front basically. Business development group basically never comes in front basically. So this is basically the thing. So here two product owners basically came into the picture. Two product owner and product managers and developers. That are the Scrum developers. So like this basically the project basically are divided into sprint, and sprint means module, and then basically the set of tasks basically are divided, and slowly basically project gets over. In the iteration basically the phase wise and iteration wise the project basically gets over according to the priority of the project. According to the priority of the task, the project the each and every module gets over, and the priority basically are decided by the business development officer only, because here he's connected with the client. He basically, the client basically never say that basically we want this, we want that, we want first this. The product owner basically completes, the product owner means business development officer completes the entire projects in his way basically, whatever way basically he want. And most of big company basically create their employment this way only, because they basically say that basically it's a very dangerous basically thing basically which we are doing. So we can't trust any of the, because employee comes and employee goes, but he basically will know the secret of the products basically. But if by chance basically if anybody knows the secret of the product, anything is going to happen. Then basically few people says that he basically knows the each and every conditions basically which are the business conditions, but what he is going to do with that condition, that is also there now basically, because everything basically is digital, and it's so secure that basically nobody can do anything. By knowing the business logic also, what he is going to do, that is also thing now basically, what he is going to do, tell basically. High tight security is there basically in internet. The software company basically, the people who are basically mostly 98% people don't know that text box equal to 1,000 cities, and that text box city is basically equal to 1,000 cities, and that cities basically are connected with the energies that 98 people basically don't know. Then how basically they are going to play with the energies, how they are going to play with the energy, because whatever data basically which is getting processed, that is in that 1,000 cities energy basically. So the 98 percentage company basically don't know that basically they can hijack, or basically they can do something basically in that energy also. But to hijack or basically do something basically, you should know that technology basically. Lots of people say that SMS technology is there, no basically. SMS basically directly connects with the environment, but that basically is trackable basically. If anything basically wrongly basically you are doing with the human body parts, then in future basically you have to give the answer to the government. And then basically one person to that government ही उनका हो तो, then basically the Supreme Courts are there. Then they told that basically Supreme Court भी उनका ही हो तो, then international courts are there. Then international courts are also basically of them basically. Then satellite groups are there. Then he told that satellites be are basically of them basically. Then the groups who created the, sorry, the god groups are basically there. Then they told that the god family also basically are under them basically. Then at last basically the who created the earth planet, that groups are there basically. At last basically that group are there. Even basically the god family doesn't supports. At last basically god, the groups who created the earth planet, and they basically never comes in front. They basically have created the world basically. They have created the god, they have created everybody basically. So here basically we are, this is also actually very dangerous topic basically, that there are many groups basically who actually created the earth planet. You will not able to believe that basically, and they keep some control with them basically. If I say one of the example, the lava land basically which is connected, that connects up to that level basically. So this basically is the related to the 1 lakh products, which basically is connected like this, and basically projects are basically completed like this way. And mostly basically project gets complete basically. It's not like that the project basically never gets complete. But here sometime basically what happens, project basically gets fails. But we never able to track that basically why projects are failing basically. Whenever basically the projects are starting, the employees basically are leaving, few basically people says that basically we are not able to create the development, we are not able to create the project management plan, this that, each and every, why basically they are not able to do that. There are some reason na basically why projects are basically getting failed. Few people says that resources are not proper, but resources are also good, then also basically project gets fails basically. 50 percentage project basically gets fails. What is the main reason behind that? That is the power supply which is getting passed to the software companies. There's something basically manipulation happens which basically doesn't give the perfect power supply. For example, the TCS company basically is doing the CRM project, and few more 10 more projects basically they are doing. But exactly basically CRM project basically energies are not getting reached to the employees. That is one thing. Another thing, the other environment basically which power supply company is supposed to pass, that is the positive energy basically, that they are not passing. Why? Because they are telling that they are actually not passing basically. That is different thing basically. That basically up to that level basically power company can't handle, because it's very dangerous. Power companies are doing actually very dangerous task. Within second basically the entire land will become powder basically. Powder means sand basically. Not a single building will exist basically. That's why R&D basically power company have to do. But how, that basically technique. That is basically lots of people says that in Earth planet basically the group basically who created the Earth planet, they have created city equal to human. Means they basically don't do experiment in city directly. They do experiment in that person basically which has created as a city. For example, Vadodara city, before any construction in Vadodara city, they basically dumps the energy of that construction data. That is basically scientist group basically who creates. Example basically I have already taken, that is the MBA wala, MBA's books idea basically. That example I have already taken. So they dump basically entire data to that particular Vadodara person basically. So he is basically doing what? He is doing the manipulation of entire MBA energy. If any wrong is there, then basically it will be trackable. And he basically works in one of the company, and he basically works as an MBA person only basically. His task basically which is given, that is according to the books mapping basically, and the what the work basically MBA groups do, that kind of work he do. So and each and everything basically get checked. After that checking basically, then basically the construction basically creation starts. Same way lava creation. That person basically which is going, he is connected with this 1 lakh projects lava. So before creating any lava, designing any lava, you have to check that basically this 1 lakh project basically equal to lava which is dumped into the person's body, that basically is doing any bad things or basically not basically. and whatever projects basically which is supposed to generate, that he is generating or not basically. Then one person told that why basically you are basically doing this whole thing basically. Why don't you basically directly create say that basically he is a potato, from his energy basically potato is going to generate. Why you are doing this type of all hard work? That also basically question will arise basically. That question also arises. That if you can dump that lava data into that person's body and you can do the manipulation and you can generate the output, then basically why this entire hard work basically you are doing? Because there are more than 6 crore blood cells, and each and every blood cells basically you can't check basically. That is one point basically. And another point is the real objects, that is the sand basically. You can't create earth, planet, sand as a chemical. Lots of people say that I have created chemical, I have created one sand basically. That is actually chemical basically, that is created from the chemical. But exact sand basically you can't create. You can do the R&D basically from that sand basically, but exact sand basically it's not possible basically. That's why the lava basically are done as a process in the inside the sand basically, inside the land basically. Lots of people says that tree basically gives energies basically. On the base of that energy basically, human are able to have the normal life basically. If tree will not exist in this world, it will create lots of problem. But USA is telling that basically that person basically which is going there, he is equal to 1 lakh tree. America says that basically you just require the energy na basically, that this person this tree energy basically is required in the city. So they created, for example, there are basically 100 crore trees in America, and one person basically is generating around assume that 1 crore trees energy. So 1 crore multiply by that many person basically. One person is generating 1 crore. So and more than 100 people basically they just need to create one few hundred peoples basically, and from that 100 basically peoples more mostly basically people say that basically buffer is required. So more than 100, but not more than 110, 112. So the people say that tree basically the natural tree basically that is getting over basically in America. They say that basically we don't require tree. So they are basically firing it and they are creating human as a tree. But that is actually the experiment basically. You can't basically, first you have to do the experiment in one of the country, then also basically you can implement that. So America thinking is that you can basically we can create one person, and that one person basically can convert to 1 crore tree energy. So that person basically is himself basically generating, for example in one city basically one tree is required. So that person basically is one tree, and from his energy the entire city basically gets the energy of 1 crore tree. So the human basically who takes the data of tree, that is basically coming from that person's body, and his body basically is created up to that level that that contains lava data also. So you can just imagine how the American thinking basically are. And that thinking basically might be correct also. We basically can't say anything basically which is wrong, which is correct. It might possible that some product basically they are keep doing R&D, keep doing R&D. If they are getting fail, but it at last basically it gets success also. Because if any one person basically has designed this idea, then he might have thought something. No, basically, he might have thought something basically. Otherwise, basically, he will never do that. Lots of people says that it's a space issue. lots of population basically getting increased. According to that, the space is not there because 70-80 percentage land is covered with the sea water, and that basically sea water is getting increased. So by chance, basically, if that 1 crore equal to trees, the tree will get end basically. So they basically think the USA basically think that the sea water level basically will get raised basically, but slowly it get raised. But if it's a tree is there, that 100 crore tree is there, then water level of the sea will increase very fast. So see basically the thinking. They know that basically the sea water is going to raise one slowly basically, but it is going to raise. So they are trying to basically slow out the sea water raising, raising power of the sea water. That also name basically you can say. So sea water is going to raise. Why? Because energies are getting increased, everything basically gets converted into the water, and it basically converts into the sea water. Lots of manipulation basically happens. For example, in this world basically around 100 crore buildings are there. So their 100 crore buildings basically converts to energy, and that energy basically one day it converts to sea water also. So their thinking is that water level will raise basically in sea, but it should raise slowly. So whatever object basically exists in this world basically, that converts to water one day according to the time period. According to the time period. So one of the person told that the groups who actually created this lava, they basically have taken this everything into the consideration, or basically they just created few chemicals and told that this is the lava data, and that just dump the data into the land, and rest of process basically happens automatically. And that comes to the troubleshooting basically. Sometimes basically in Apple laptop basically and few costly laptop basically, just you have to do the troubleshooting. Rest of basically repairing automatically happens. But in costly laptops basically, who are basically more than 1 crore, 2 crore, they're basically just repair is button is just supposed to press. That's all basically. Rest of thing basically happens automatically. Rest of things basically happens automatically. So here basically we are actually discussing. Here we are discussing that 1 crore project is there. Sorry, whatever project, 1 lakh basically we can take. 1 crore basically is too much because 1 crore project basically entire Mumbai also basically entire India basically if we will merge, then also basically 1 crore project basically doesn't count, doesn't get count basically. So assume that basically 1 lakh project is there. 1 lakh project basically gets the data from that lava land basically, which is dumped long before. So one of the person told that the government basically have the data of each and every areas. That basically how they know that basically 1 lakh project basically which is ongoing, which is basically has to start. That data basically has to be taken from that land basically, or they basically digs everything and then basically they say this land is okay, we will take power supply from here. So is that basically they are doing? It's a government basically, everything is basically planned. So from that area only basically you have to take the lava data. From that area only you have to take the lava data. From that area only basically you have to take the power data which is getting from lava. So one of the person told that yeah, up to that level basically the projects basically, and here basically failure basically how happens, power data basically which is getting passed, that doesn't match the environment, because you are not getting the perfect power data, you are not taking the perfect power data. according to the projects. But according to the projects, if you will do in long term, basically, software company have to this or do this plan basically, which I am telling. They have to create one data science project, which will say that for this project you have to take this power supply. For this project you have to take this power supply, and this power supply basically is going to come from that area, and that area basically directly because the software company is basically is not supposed to take the power supply. The power company basically have to collect the power supply in advance, and they have to create the storage basically for their power supply, and you have to dump that power supply in any of the spaces basically, and then basically they have to pass the power supply to that particular company. So like this, the exact power supply basically comes, and here basically the Amazon concept basically you can use. Amazon basically what is doing basically. Previously, what was basically previously lots of server basically was there. People were purchasing server. One software company opened at least basically 4 or 5 server basically they were purchasing. And server basically was costing too much. So Amazon told that basically we will create server for you. You just take some certain level of space basically which you is required. Rest of speed, weed, everything basically we are going to handle. Security, whatever thing basically. So they created thousands of server instead of the companies basically was purchasing long before. So same way concept here also basically happens of the lava basically. Lava basically converts into this, for example, CRM project basically one software company told that basically we are starting with CRM project. So that CRM data that need to collect from the land, then basically it has to store to the one of the power supply area. That basically Amazon concept basically you have to use, and then basically you have to send the data to the so for example, there are 100 projects basically with that company. So 100 projects data basically they have to take in advance and have to store somewhere in power supply area. So few people told that the sun solar system basically which is ongoing is that basically connecting to this concept basically. Lots of people says that basically sun solar system basically why sun solar system is created, because this is some private investment basically of any of the one of the person basically. So is he thinking this way basically, which basically just now I discussed. It might possible basically, it might possible that he might be thinking up to that way, but 100% basically we can't say until basically we don't have the perfect data, and data basically nobody in this world basically might be having. So one person told that that thing is correct, we have to tell 98% basically it is correct, even basically everything basically displaying everything perfectly. Why? Because there are lots of things basically which are hidden basically still there are basically lots of things basically are hidden. For example, CRM project is ongoing, but the power supply basically can't pass the perfect CRM power supply data. Why? They are basically collecting from the land basically. So this is one technique. Another basically was that CRM project basically 18 ways basically that thing basically. That was one concept. Another concept. Then 18 way basically which was converted into energy by the power supply company. They stores that power supply data to somewhere so that basically it can be reusable. So best way is what? Dumping the power supply into the land basically. Or lots of people say that capacitor or capacitor basically are there. Into that basically they dumps the data. Thousands of capacitor basically they creates whenever basically the project CRM is ongoing. Just they basically start that capacitor, but that basically is too costly basically, but less risky. And here the risk is they are dumping the data in that CRM projects and each and every project's data into this area. That basically CRM example I have already taken long before basically. First CRM project basically in the world who actually created that example I'm talking about. So they will collect the CRM data and then basically they dump into the certain areas in the land basically. That is also possible. Na? Why basically land basically? Reason, something basically nature should connect with nature basically, whatever things basically you are creating that nature also have to test. So that nature is here what? That is the land basically. Here is a land basically. So here again back to that 1 lakh project basically. So one person told that 1 lakh project basically, which is gone going basically in Mumbai, which is basically ongoing in Mumbai, that basically is getting power supply data from that lava area, which is created by set of groups basically, which is created by set of groups, and that group basically mostly might not be existing also basically, and lots of people says that are basically created by satellites group basically. Here basically we can't say basically, here basically possibilities only basically can be create, because exact you know basically that from this data basically the crm project is going from this power supply data. For example, if you want the perfect power supply data, for example if you want the project success rate 90 percentage 80 95 percentage, then basically this is the only concept. The power supply which you are passing to the companies that are the project team members, it should be exactly should match to the lava data and to the project data. This type of data only those group basically gets, who's basically the project is very critical. There basically if employee goes, then it creates lots of problem. In that situation basically this concept basically can be used. So you can just imagine basically how the things are basically connected. So one of the person told that 1 lakh project software company got from 1 lakh project. The software company basically got 1 lakh project. They started 1 lakh projects on the ways of, because without power supply basically anything is going to happen. That power supply basically they gets from the land basically. That is the lava data, which is created long before by set of groups. And after creation basically, they people basically dies. Their energy basically are taken. They basically dies. So you can just imagine basically how the creation is. Basically. They basically dies and they basically not able to remember also basically where that they basically were like this. They on the base of their basically the power supply data basically is getting into consideration to create this 1 lakh project. So here topic is what? 1 lakh project ongoing on the base of power supply company, nuclear power company, and energy company. They are taking data from that lava land, which is dumped long before by set of groups. So here basically one of the person basically asked the question. The 1 lakh project is designed first or basically the power supply company basically designs this 1 lakh projects car data. That is also a question na, basically. That also converts to what? That also converts to scientist group basically. They say that this is the 1 lakh project and we basically are designing the brains, for example crm project. So for crm project basically we have created a few brains. They are these brains basically, and that basically we have created on the base of certain level of data, certain level of data. So one of the person told that, one of the person told that the scientist basically plays very dangerous role. That scientists are basically who? NASA and ISRO group. They know that basically the MBA degree which they have created, that means degree, they will not say the degree. They will say the MBA brain basically which they have created. They know that basically up to what level the MBA groups are going to think. When they are going to become into romantic mood, when they will become angry, when they will become athletic person basically, when they will basically become the workaholic person basically. For example, they told that basically uh, assume that basically from MBA energy, potato is getting created, and the government is telling that basically there are lots of demand, but according to that, the supply basically is not happening. Reason, MBA groups are working, but here the working culture basically need to increase. So the scientist group basically know that basically how that supposed to be happen, which kind of energy basically they will pass into the power company, so that they basically will start up to level work basically, and after work to level work basically the demand basically is going to, demand basically is as it is, as basically it is, but supply of the energy basically for creation of potato, that will get increased. So like this basically the demand supply basically problem basically government solves, government basically solves this type of problem basically. So this 1 lakh project basically which is ongoing, that is also doing the same way only basically, that also connects with the demand and supply. According to that only the 1 lakh project is basically designed by the scientist group, that are the NASA and ISRO. So in next video basically we are going to see little bit more about this 1 lakh project which basically the Mumbai city is doing, and Mumbai city is doing according to that power supply which is was which basically is getting from the lava data, that is basically the land basically, and that database, that lava land basically was selected by the government groups, that government know that's basically for this 1 lakh project, this is the area where, from where basically we have the project, from where basically the government has to take the data of power supply and need to pass the power supply to the software companies. So in detail basically we are going to see a little bit more about this topic.